Hello guys, good evening. It's Scott, S3 Model Works. I am back. It is June 4th? 5th, something like that. Anyway, it's late in the morning. You guys know I'm a night owl. I work at night. So I'm going to try and put some footage together tonight to bring you guys my May update. I'll show you what I've been working on, what I've been playing with. I've done a couple of serious builds that I've poured myself into and got really stellar results on the first one, and it looks like this one's going to be another pinnacle type build for me, which I'm really happy with. But I'll share that with you guys in a little bit. So hang out with me for the time it takes me to move my camera stuff around, and we'll be back and we'll get started. Just a silly little Jane Mansfield documentary of some publicity tour in the early 60s out of Roma, Italy. So just playing in the background, but we'll focus on models when I come back. So you guys hang tough. Glad you're here, and sit back, enjoy. I'll be back in a bit. Okay, all, welcome back. Hi, it's Scott again, and I got my table set up. I got my little pillowcase set up out here, and my light on. And anyway, we'll move through what I got accomplished in May. And I got one that is finished, the one in front of you, which is Takom's 1/35th scale Krupp 21 centimeter Morser, or mortar. It's a howitzer cannon artillery piece from World War I. It's got a very different scheme on it. It comes from an unknown unit, unknown year, German Army, World War I. It's a forerunner of other artillery pieces. The main difference that I was able to discern on this one is that it, instead of having no recuperation or recoil system, this was the version, and I did put the short barrel on here. The kit actually came with two barrels, one considerably longer and this one the short one, but I liked the shorty with the big cleated wheels on it, so that's how I built. Let me see if I can spin it around here and give you guys a different view. This will be the back side of it, and as you can see, the camo that I laid out, I don't even know what to call it. I couldn't find any references to it, and I also could not find anyone else who did, even though Marcus White on his Modeling the Great War Facebook page, several of his members ponied up a lot of good information for me on there. And a lot of them said, you know what, when it comes to World War I stuff, whip out your creative license and be creative, and that's kind of what I did. So anyway, let me spin it around again and give you guys another view here. It's got some great detail on this kit. It's a wonderfully built kit. It took almost no cleanup to do. It went together beautifully. It came with just enough PE to make it interesting without being difficult. The PE pieces are a little bit hard to see. There's a couple of real small handles back here on the trundle plate, the towing plate. There's a riveted piece here on the liftable towing mechanism. Gosh, there's a rifle barrel. When we get around to it, I'll show you guys that. And other than that, I think that was about it. But the way the camo laid out, this was real complex for me, and quite honestly, I covered new ground when I was doing this. I mixed up a couple of different paints, mostly out of Vallejo Model Air. I used hemp and light blue gray and made the yellow gray color, which was sprayed entirely on the model on top of a coat of German Panzer gray. Then I broke out my science putty, which is the rough equivalent of like AK type putty, the black snot or the black creature, you know, when it comes out of there. Basically I just stretched it out all around the model, which was very complex, but it was well worth the extra effort, and I think you guys can see that. It made some really beautiful patterning on here, and I did manage to construct the shield in such a manner that even though it looks like it's very delicate up here, it actually, being the one piece that it was, the most difficult part were these two little supports, which I had to leave off until the very end. But the shield itself, basically, once I got it all put into place, all I had to do was stretch a couple of these interior legs out here, these guys, and it popped right into the gun carriage. But it basically went together in about, I don't know, it was about 22 steps in the kit. But I do highly recommend this kit if you guys are into World War I stuff or you want to do something different. I've heard this about many of the different Takom kits. They're wonderful. If you haven't experienced it yet for yourself, do yourself a favor. They make some really, really cool stuff. And this was very reasonable. In America, this probably ran me, it was way under 30 bucks. I want to say with my little hobby store discount, it's probably about 22 bucks. So anyway, that's the Krupp Morser, complete, put to the side. I did do a little bit of weathering on the wheels just to sort of give them a little bit of earth tone on there. I'm not sure if I'm going to drop this into a vignette. I think it is going to be more like a vignette where it'll just be the piece in emplacement without any figures in it. But I just wanted to get a little bit of head start on the weathering process there. So anyway, that's Takom's Krupp Morser, complete. Now, secondly up tonight, this is an ongoing build for me. This is my ICM T-34 76mm gun with the Shorty Gun on there. It's a project that I've been working on for a while. I did manage to get most of the figures together. These figures were actually supplied in the kit. This one is also 135 scale. I decided to button it up because I do want to put this one in a diorama. The figures are very, very interesting. I'm not sure if you guys can get a decent look at that, but when you look at all of them, I mean, they're literally, you know, this guy's peeking through this guy's peeking over the turret, this guy's hiding behind his officer, and I did leave the arm off the officer here. He's basically got a weapon clasped here against his thigh, but I need to get the sling built for that, so I elected not to put that on. And where am I at? Sorry, had a focal motor seizure there for a second. The major accomplishments I've done here is, of course, the completion of the figures. Previously, the tank itself had been completed. I did want to do some weathering. I suck at weathering on armor. I kind of suck on weathering at aircraft, too. It's not my strong point. But I did throw some mud on here, as you guys can see. I threw some mud on there. Eek! And one of the figures fell off because he's just barely on there with enough white tack to make him stick. I didn't want to go too terribly heavy on it, but I also put on the vinyl tracks. And the reason I put on the vinyl tracks, I would love to put a set of metals on here. I just can't afford them right now. But I put the vinyl tracks on because when I tensioned them all up, and some of the pictures that I'd seen, when this tank is moving, which is sort of what I would like to do with the diorama, I'm kind of envisioning this little thing of it coming down a slightly sloped hill and maybe crashing through a fence as it might be rejoining, let's say, a country road somewhere along the route of an armored column. Maybe it got lost and it's crashing its way through fences trying to find its way back to its column. But this particular kit was a lot of fun to build. I'm not going to unbutton it on this particular build because there are other videos up on my channel that show you the interior work that I did on here. This kit basically has zero interior. It had a driver's seat, a coax gunner's seat, which are both right up here, the actual coax gun, and 2 slew levers to control the tank. In addition, it also has, which nobody will ever see because I buttoned up the turret, it actually has the gun breech and additional coax gun in here, which I just did marginal detailing on. But I did do a full interior on this thing, basically from this point forward. There's nothing back in the engine bay, there's nothing to see, but I do like to scratch build, and I think I did a pretty decent job of scratch building an interior. If any of you guys are curious, I will pull it apart and post some pictures, you know, leave me a comment on the page. We'll take a look at it, and we'll see what's what. So anyway, that's model number 2. So, my T-34-76, and if you guys do want a little peek at the interior, perhaps you can get one through there. Probably not much. You can probably see a little bit of the whiteness going on in there, but trust me, if you'll take a look through my page and my YouTube site, you'll see some updates on the T-34-76 where I explain it. It is not those particular updates, it was still a work in progress, but I've had some other comments from some guys that I've shown on some of their Facebook and YouTube sites, and they said, wow, really good job. But this was a hell of a lot of fun to build. A decent kit. I wasn't disappointed with it. The worst thing about this kit is obviously the vinyl tracks, but the other worst thing was where the lower hull mated with the upper hull. Either the front or the rear fit perfectly, but if you fit the front or the rear, you either ended up with like a big duck lip thing, which I chose to nail the rear down first and fill the gap, and I tried to do a little bit of weld seaming in the front, which is not going to be terribly visible, but it is what it is. But anyway, that's my T-34, so that's number 2 for tonight. Eek! And you can see some of my weathering powders messing up our nice white thingy. So, thirdly tonight, and this is the one that I've really poured myself over. This has been an ongoing build on me for about 1.5 years. Not because it's a difficult kit to build, but because of the paint scheme. It's a difficult subject matter for me because I built a base on this, and the base was basically inspired by David Damac, and a lot of you guys might know him as Plasmo, but Dave Damac had done an FW-190 maintenance diorama in sort of like a protected revetment aircraft bunker with an FW-190 in 72nd scale, I believe, which came out really, really neat. But anyway, I took a lot of inspiration from Dave, and I created my own revetment, which I'll show you guys in the future. But this is my build. This is an Eduard Weekend Edition kit in 1/48 scale, BF-109G Gustav, with the Erla camouflage. And if you guys can see, the Erla camouflage is very, very, very complex. This is the hardest camouflage pattern that I have ever attempted. I just finished decaling it today, so as you can see, it's on its stand, and I'm going to let it sit there, so I'm not going to manipulate it too much. But basically, to explain it to you guys as easily as I can, I basically gave this thing just a shot of light gray primer to start with, and then I did a base coat overall of the entire bird in light blue or Lichtblau, German. The light blue, you'll see when I flip it over, you'll see, but the light blue actually transitions up here into the waffle pattern on the leading edge of both wings. It's not super visible, and I know it looks more gray than anything right now. So anyway, the light blue, and from there, I skinned out my areas and I basically focused on the modeling camouflage on both sides, which basically run from underneath the tail fin up here on the vertical stabilizer and down through the central portion of the fuselage, where you guys see it all appear here on both sides. So I did the modeling down there, and the modeling basically is a four-color, what they call an ambush scheme. Excuse me, not an ambush scheme. It's called a disruptive pattern. It basically includes gray, just general, I think it's RLM. It's not 66, but it's one of the other blends. But essentially there's a little bit of RLM02 in here, which is sort of a tannish gray. And then there is a black green and a gray green, as well as the overall gray pattern as well. So that's modeled on both sides on there. I'm sorry, when I said gray, what I mean to be telling you guys is that it's actually a gray violet color. And as you can see on the wings here, there's a different pattern that evolves into this Sawtooth pattern, and the fourth color that's actually down here is the same color that's right here. This is a gray violet color that's on both of these, and this is the gray green. Now some of you may have picked this up already. The Sawtooth pattern was basically created with Tamiya tape, and I scaled everything out and did some transfers on tracing paper, and then I transferred those to the Tamiya tape, and I basically cut them out, laid them out. But the way this works out, and it's going to be real difficult for you guys to see, but you can see the natural ridge of the pattern, how it sort of, it came up a little bit short on this corner of the cross. But also you can see it comes down here, and it also extends farther out here. This is not the natural line. This is the natural line of the camo that would have come up this way. So basically what happens here is that once I got all that camo laid in there, and I thought I was done painting, and I was like, yay, Scott, good job. I came to find out that because the German crosses here, and I'll show you guys just real quick, they come with black and white on the bottom, which is how they're supposed to be. Okay, they're supposed to be black and white. But on this particular version, you can see that black is replaced here by the gray-green, which is pretty well black. And then again, I'm not sure if you can catch it, but on the side, this looks black in the video. But this, if you match this color up to, let's say if I can pick one out, I believe it's that spot right there. That's actually one of the black greens that are in there. So basically what I had to do was cut out a couple of masks, eyeball them as best I could, which was very dicey for me. It was very, very complex, and I'm really pleased with the result. And I think you guys might agree that even though these German crosses are off a little bit on both sides, that both of them came out rather well, and I did a good job. So again, just to reiterate, the black and white crosses on the bottom, the gelb or yellow here is RLM 04, I think. Anyway, it's a real neat match, and I'm not sure if you guys can see it or not, but the fuel tank, I originally was not going to put the drop tank on here, but this is the style of fuel tank that, if you can see that, it's almost like an inverted insect stinger. So it came with a couple of really neat decals on there, and I don't think I muffed it, but there's one back here that's just a warning, and it seemed like that little tail just needed a little something on it. So it's actually one of the designators, very similar to like this triangular patch here. I'm hoping you guys can catch some of that. There's a fair bit of stenciling on this aircraft that I hope is showing up in the video. But as you can see, these are Eduard Cartograph decals. They came out very, very well. Very, very well. I didn't do any alterations to this bird. The only thing that I did do are the seat belts. And the seat belts are actually a World War II U.S. aircraft. I don't do much etch, and I didn't have much experience with it, but I wanted to do it on this aircraft. So even though these are not Luftwaffe seat belts, I still think they look pretty damn good. Really, really neat build. Really, really neat build. Absolutely beautiful aircraft. And by the way, the scheme is not the only thing that caught my eye about this aircraft. This is actually Captain Heinrich Erler's bird, who I believe flew for JG-77 out of Alakurti, Finland, about 1943. Captain Erler, as you can see, he's got at this particular point in his career, he's got the 100 Iron Cross with oak leaves on it. He was actually an ace who, by the time of his death in the war, he was credited with downing 208 aircraft. So I believe his final version of this would have been the Iron Cross with oak leaves and clusters on it with a 200 there instead of the 100. But like I said, other than the camouflage, the other thing that took me about this, because here's a pilot flying for his country, real dedication to duty. This guy died early in 1945, I believe by March, at which time he was actually flying ME-262s with JG-77 somewhere during the Russian and the American push of everybody back into the German frontiers. But he actually lost his life in combat against B-24 liberators while he was flying 262s. And the significance of that story is we all know what type of fighter the 262 was. It was a jet fighter, and obviously it was absolutely devastating with its armaments that were on it. But single-handedly, Captain Erler here downed 2 B-24 liberators and rammed a third one. And by ramming the third one, that's the event that took his life early in the war years in 1945. So I still have a few little bit pieces to do on this guy, and I'm just letting the decals get a real good set. So anyway, those are my completed builds for May. And I'm going to put you guys on pause here just real quickly, and we'll probably do something that anyway, I'll show you guys what my next fun project is. Those were all intense builds for me, so I'm going to take the pressure off and just do something fun, but I'll enlighten you guys when I come back, okay? Hang tough. Okay guys, I'm back again, and I haven't done one of these before. We're not doing a review, but I think I'm going to take this kit, which is a very poor kit, everybody knows, we can see. Level 2 Revell, my box is all beat up. This is just something that my boss at the hobby shop wanted out of his back room, and I asked him what he was going to do with it, and he's like, nothing, Scott, it's going to sit here until I decide to throw it away. And I'm like, well, I'd like to take it home and see if I can do it some justice, boss. And he's like, have at it. So here it is. Anyway, this is Revell's EA-6A Wild Weasel of an intruder. It is 48 scale. The intruder's a fairly big bird as it is, so we'll have a quick look at the sprues. But I found a very interesting experimental camo out of 1966-ish, which is actually, looks like it's a pre-runner to the S.E.A, or the Southeast Asian tricolor green and black camo that the S.E.A camos were developed out of. So anyway, I got 2 sprues like this. I got 1 fuselage half, The big difference on this particular bird is that it has the big E-lint package up here, which is part of the radar jamming stuff. The prime mission of the Wild Weasels was to suppress SAMs over Vietnam as they were incurring on bombing runs for missions. So anyway, I'm just going to blow through this. I'm going to try and keep my video to give or take about 30 minutes, and I think I blew 22 of them talking about the other stuff that we talked about on the bench. So I'll show you guys the other fuselage sprue. This one has two different sets for the air brakes on the sides back here. This kit doesn't have a whole lot of options on it, as far as none of the wing surfaces are movable. None of the, there's not a terrible amount of detail on here. None of the drop-down radar packaging stuff is available. It's a very, very, very basic kit. And that's exactly how I'm going to build it. But I am going to do it in that cool experimental S.E.A. camouflage. So it's got about 5 sprues to it. This is mostly fuel tanks, a couple of the Shrike missiles, the pylons for it. It does have some fair detail on the interior, which will make it interesting. But as you can see, typical Revell fashion. Very little surface detail. I might go to the trouble to see if maybe I can add something. The bottom line is kind of like I was explaining to you guys earlier. I do like scratch building, and I do like super detailing. So I've got some pretty decent reference material in my stuff back there behind me. Not super, but I might do a little bit of alterations to this thing, trying to make it look a little bit better. But the bottom line with this build is I'm just going to have fun with it, and quite honestly, I think I'm going to do a documentation build for you guys. So here, basically, we've got the cockpit, the landing gear, some of the intakes, very basic stuff, tail hook, gear doors, wheels, cowl, back piece, all that good stuff. And then finally we got the that's not going to be fun. I had actually done an A6 earlier at the end of last year in 72nd scale, which was the artillery kit, which I won't say is a brand new kit, but it was certainly a fun kit to build. It was an older kit, but it actually built out really, really well. And I practiced some of my marbling techniques on it, and I turned basically a boring gray aircraft into kind of an interesting looking aircraft. This goes to show you how old this is. This bag is yellow, it's never even been opened. But the glass looks okay, and that's a big piece of glass. So we should have some fun. And then if you guys want to just have a real quick look through the instructions. Sorry, my microphones are like super sensitive tonight. Oh, and it does come with 2 very gay figures, which I will probably, I might paint them and dress them up. Very, very basic though. Cockpit, the assembly, the fuselage goes together. The middle bay piece with the tail hook goes in, then the intakes go on. Wing assemblies, horizontal stabilizers in the back, drilling out of the pylons, front gear, rear gear, installation of such with their struts, supports, and doors, and then basically finishing up. You know, it even comes with, ooh, look at that, 4 rear view mirrors for the cockpit glass. So anyway, I'm just going to have some fun with this thing, and then the final details. I had thought about doing this thing with a gear up version, because it does have pilots on the inside, and I might look at that. So let's see, this would be one of the ECM pods. I believe it had 2 on board with 2 Shrikes and fuel tanks as well. But as you can see, it's a very basic kit. I'm not even going to show you the decals on this thing because the decals are terrible. They're absolute poop. So I'm going to have to source some new decals before I do anything else with it. And before I upload my video, I'll see if I can't find a couple of pictures of that neat S.E.A camouflage that I was sharing with you guys. And let me change camera positions again, and I'm going to come back and sign off with you guys. Peace. So anyway, boys and girls, thank you guys very much for being with me. Jane and I are going to say goodnight to you guys now. Like I said, I wanted to keep it at about 30 minutes, and I'd like to stay strong to that word. But I hope that our C-19 global healthcare threat continues to find you guys in good health and good spirits. And model on, brothers and sisters. So you guys take care. I'm Scott, S3 Model Works. Great spending some time with you guys. And as soon as I break this thing down and start cutting some screw pieces apart, I'm going to go ahead and try and film it up for you guys, and I'll try to do my very first build series. But again, if you like my content, or if you don't like my content, please let me know. If there's something I can do to improve it, let me know that too, okay? I like doing this, you know, for my friends and family so they can stay abreast of what I'm doing, keep myself occupied during C-19, and just enjoying. So I hope you guys are too. But anyway, if you like it, subscribe, ring the bell, you know, leave me a comment. Seriously, leave me a comment, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. I'd like to hear from you guys. I appreciate what you guys have to offer, and I certainly appreciate what you guys have to say. So, good night from S3 Model Works in my minor garage. Jane says goodnight as she's doffing her top. Ooh, you didn't know it was going to get risky. See, I told you, you never know what you're going to get on my site. Anyway, you guys take care. Talk to you soon. Bye.